15 years have passed since then. The memory of that day, when everything was swallowed by the raging waves, still burns in my chest. But time has flowed on. Now I spend my days tilling the earth. This continent is wrapped in humid heat. Great rivers twist. Wetlands spread wide. The land stretches as far as the eye can see. It is not a city surrounded by the sea, like Atlantis. Here, soil, sweat, and sun are everything. I swing the hoe. I break the soil. I sow seeds. Beside me are the native people who have always lived here. Awkwardly, they imitate my movements. At first they were wary, throwing stones, raising spears, rejecting us. But when the people of Atlantis pointed weapons at them, they quickly became submissive. Now they worship us like gods. They obey every word. Many of those who came from Atlantis call them savages. They laugh at them, saying they have no wisdom, no strength, only obedience. They exploit that obedience. They force them to work like slaves, to till the fields, to carry burdens, sometimes even to risk their lives. But I cannot help feeling a deep unease at this sight. So I began to teach them, not only farming, but also letters and words. I opened the books I had brought from Atlantis. I relearned especially the knowledge of the stars, and I shared it with them. Under the night sky, I spoke the names of stars. I taught them how to read the calendar. By teaching, I too was learning again. To my surprise, some among them learned quickly. They remembered words. They understood the positions of stars, no different from us. Among them was a girl about my age. She repeated my words at once. She named the stars with precision. In the fields and under the night sky, she understood faster than anyone. Before I knew it, I was drawn to her. In her eyes shone not fear, but a strong light of curiosity. It was the same brilliance of wisdom I once saw in the city of Atlantis. The time I spent speaking with her reminded me of my lost homeland. And at the same time, let me dream of a new future. Yet I am torn. Is my heart drawn to her a weakness of my own? Or is it the hope I need to take root in this land? The answer has not yet come. But one thing I know. The time I spend with her gives me the meaning to live. 15 years ago, that day, after the raging waves swallowed the city, I awoke in darkness. It was a place like an iron coffin, inside a submarine. The submarine was enormous. It had multiple divided living quarters, so vast it felt as if an entire city had sunk within it. Yet no matter its size, the suffocating walls of iron could not ease the oppression. Inside were not only people, but cattle, sheep, and birds. They were not brought for companionship, but for food. Each time their cries echoed, I felt the weight of lives sacrificed for survival, and a heavy burden spread within my chest. I later learned this submarine was no accident. It had been secretly prepared by the royals, nobles, and privileged class of Atlantis, as a safeguard against disaster. They had built this massive vessel for their own survival. When I learned this truth, I realized, even as a child, that there was such a thing as the selection of lives. After the tsunami struck, the submarine went to confirm the state of the sunken capital, Neleua. When it surfaced, they miraculously found me floating in the sea, and pulled me aboard. In that moment, my life was not chance, but bound to someone's choice. Only a few dozen were rescued, including me. Yet nearly 5 million had lived in Neleua. Most were swallowed by the sea in an instant, and vanished. That prosperous city lost its voices, its lights, everything. Inside the submarine, I learned this truth, and felt a deep hollow open in my chest. Surviving was a miracle. But at the same time, it was a burden to bear. Why was I the one to survive? That question has never left my heart. Life inside the submarine was like drifting in endless darkness. Outside the windows, nothing could be seen. Only iron walls, closing us in. The sense of time slowly faded. Morning and night became indistinguishable. Soon, sickness began to spread inside. Most of the privileged were elderly, and many collapsed, one after another. Coughs and groans echoed. The smell of death filled the vessel. There were a few doctors, but the medicine quickly ran out. They could do nothing. In the end, even the doctors fell ill. All of them lost their lives. More than half of those aboard died. The submarine was ruled by death and silence. Yet still, the vessel drifted on. Several times, we found continents. We tried to land, but they were barren wastelands. Dry, empty, without food or water. We had no choice but to give up. Hope was shattered. We returned to the dark interior once more. One day, by chance, we reached another continent. There, an Atlantis ship lay abandoned. Surely, people had fled there after the tsunami. But the ship was empty. No sign of life remained. The deck was ruined. The sails were torn. Only the wind moved them. We tried to land, but the leaders decided against it. The people of Atlantis had never left the closed sea. They feared the unknown land. So we departed again. We aimed for another continent. We drifted for nearly a year. Beside death, always drifting. At last, a single ray of hope appeared. It was the continent where we now live. The submarine reached the mouth of a great river. From there, we ascended upstream. Wetlands spread wide. The land was wrapped in humid heat. Our feet sank into mud. Yet we stood upon new ground. In that moment, a strange feeling filled my chest. Relief at survival. And fear of the unknown future. This continent was both salvation and trial. We had lost the sea. We had lost the city. We had lost civilization. What could we build here? No one yet knew the answer. Since we settled on this continent, our daily life slowly began to take shape. In the morning, the sun rose beyond the wetlands. We walked toward the fields. The morning was for farming. Swinging the hoe. Turning the soil. Sowing seeds. Planting seedlings. The natives, those whom the Atlanteans called savages, stood beside me in the fields. They sweated as they copied my movements. Their hands were clumsy at first, but little by little, they improved. Touching the soil. Raising crops. They were no different from us. After midday, I taught them letters and words. On wooden boards, I wrote with charcoal. I read the words aloud. At first they were confused, but soon their eyes lit up. They began to imitate my words. When they learned to read and write, their faces shone with pride. It was as if a new world had opened before them. Each time I saw this, I was certain they were not foolish. But many of the Atlanteans thought otherwise. They created convenient religions to bind the natives who worshipped them as gods. They spread teachings. Those of Atlantean blood are chosen by the gods. The savages are their servants. The natives bowed their heads. They prayed in fear and faith. Each time I saw this, a strong unease filled my chest. They are human. They laugh, cry, learn, and dream, just like us. To bind them in the name of gods. Is that truly right? Amid this, I grew close to one girl. She was about my age. When I taught her letters and the stars, she understood faster than anyone. She repeated my words. She named the stars with precision. Sometimes she even asked me questions. In her eyes was no fear, only a strong light of curiosity. Together we worked in the fields. In the afternoon, we traced letters side by side. That time reminded me of my lost homeland. At the same time, it let me dream of a new future. The Atlanteans sought to build a world of domination and obedience. But with her, I felt equal exchange and shared learning. That difference created deep conflict in my heart. I cannot call them savages. Rather, I believe, within them lies the power to open the future.
Luminous was swallowed by the raging waves that day. It suffered devastating destruction. The city's former image is gone. All that remains are rubble and silence. I live among the ruins. Each day, I cling to memories of the past. Noah, I want to believe you are alive, but I no longer expect to see you again. That day, the sea took you. I know I will never see you again. And yet, I have one wish. Please live, breathe, and walk somewhere far away. That alone is my prayer. Since losing my wife, Celia, my world has lost its color. Her voice, her smile, they are no longer here. Only memories remain. At times I close my eyes and recall the glory of Atlantis, golden spires shining, ships passing through the canals, people laughing together. It must have truly existed, but now it feels like a distant illusion. I live in the ruins, immersed in memory. They are lonely, desolate days. Yet deep inside my heart, a small light still remains. It is the hope that you, Noah, may still be alive. We cannot meet again, but if you live somewhere, that alone saves me. Today again, I sit upon a broken stone wall. In silence, I pray that you are alive and that somewhere in this ruined world, you are building a new future.